4 years after the Rebecca Hayes case, one sentence in the internal report still made investigators uncomfortable. If the first call had been lost, this case would have never existed. Not solved. Existed. Because when that call came in, there was no crime scene, no confirmed victim, no suspect, no murder investigation, only a man standing in the snow, describing things he should not have known. It was 2:11 a.m., Silver Creek, Colorado. A winter storm had buried the mountain road in white. Dispatch operator Sarah Bennett was 12 hours into her shift when the line opened. The caller said his name was Ethan Cole. His voice was quiet, controlled, not calm because he was brave. Calm because he sounded like he had already accepted what he was about to see. He said he had found an SUV at the bottom of a ravine. Sarah asked him if he could see anyone inside. Ethan paused, then said, "Not clearly." Another pause. Then he added, "Looks like a woman, late 30s, blonde, silver watch." Sarah wrote it down. At the time, it sounded like a witness trying to help, but later, that pause would matter, because Ethan had not said those details like a man discovering them. He said them like a man remembering instructions. When officers reached the ravine, the SUV was nearly invisible beneath the snow. The driver's side had folded inward against the rock. The windshield was cracked. The doors were jammed shut. Inside was Rebecca Hayes, 38 years old, blonde hair, a silver watch on her left wrist. Every detail Ethan gave was correct. Every single one. But there was one problem. From where Ethan stood, toward none of it should have been visible. Not through the storm, not in the dark, not from 30 yards away, and certainly not the watch. Covered by Rebecca's coat sleeve. That was the first impossible detail, but not the last. Rebecca Hayes was a financial auditor. Quiet, careful, the kind of person who kept every receipt, labeled every folder, answered every message. Her co-workers described her as ordinary. But ordinary people still leave behind lives. Inside Rebecca's coat pocket, officers found a folded note, a birthday list for her mother, a small cake, white flowers, a card, and one final reminder at the bottom. Call Mom at 9 a.m. That call never happened. Rebecca had plans for tomorrow. Someone made sure she never reached it. 2 days later, the autopsy made the case darker. Rebecca did not die in the crash. A heavy sedative was found in her blood. The medical examiner estimated she had been dead for at least 10 hours before the SUV entered the ravine. The crash was staged. Someone had killed her somewhere else, moved her body and built an accident around her death. Naturally, detectives focused on Ethan. They almost had to, because if Ethan was not involved, nothing made sense. His GPS matched his delivery route. Traffic cameras confirmed his location. His work records matched the timeline. He had no connection to Rebecca, no motive, no fingerprints, no DNA, no trace evidence, nothing. Ethan Cole was the most suspicious person in the investigation. And somehow the least likely killer. That was what made him frightening. Not what police found, what they could not find. No school records before 2018. No medical history before 2018. No old addresses, no childhood photos, no family who could explain where he came from. Ethan Cole had a legal identity, but almost no past, as if he had stepped into the system fully formed, already wearing a name. For 3 months, the case went cold. Then Sarah Bennett listened to the 911 call again. Not for Ethan's words, for everything between them. The wind, the static, the breathing, the empty space. At 43 seconds, she heard it. A whisper, small, close, almost buried beneath the storm. Audio analysts cleaned the file for a week. When the enhanced recording came back, the room went silent. There was another voice on the call, Not Sarah, not Ethan. A male voice, very close to the phone, only 3 words. "Don't forget the watch." 3 seconds later, Ethan said, "Silver watch." Sarah replayed it until the words stopped sounding real. Because Ethan had not been alone, someone had stood near him in the snow. Someone had given him the detail before he gave it to dispatch. And from that moment on, the first call was no longer a witness statement. It was part of the crime. Sarah stopped looking at Rebecca Hayes as one murder. She started looking for other first calls, not suspects, not bodies, not crime scenes, first calls. The first voice that entered the system. The first story police were given. 6 months later, she found 11. 4 states, 7 years. 11 victims, 11 different callers. No shared families, no shared jobs, no shared phone numbers, no common addresses. Nothing that should have connected them except one thing. Every caller knew something impossible. In Arizona, a man called 911 and said the victim was still wearing a ring. But the ring was hidden under the victim's hand, pressed into mud. In Nevada, a woman described a wound behind the victim's head, but the wound was covered by hair. In Utah, a caller mentioned a key in the victim's coat pocket. Police did not find it until hours later. And in Colorado, Ethan knew about Rebecca's silver watch. At first on it looked like a pattern of strange witnesses. Then Sarah heard the whispers in the Arizona call. Right before the ring was mentioned, a voice said, "The ring," in Nevada. Before the wound was described, a faint male voice said, "Behind her head." In Rebecca's call, the voice said, "Don't forget the watch." Different states, different callers, different victims, the same method. Someone was feeding the first witness details, but that was only the surface. The real horror was in the medical timelines. In 8 of the 11 cases, the victims were still alive when the first caller arrived. Alive, not dead, still breathing, still capable of being helped. But the callers spoke as if death had already happened. In Arizona, the call came in at 1:58 a.m. The victim died at 2:03, 5 minutes later. In Nevada, the call came in at 2:07. The victim died at 2:11. In Utah, the call came in at 1:54. The victim died at 2:01. The callers were not arriving after death, they were arriving before it, and they were doing nothing. No CPR, no first aid, no attempt to move the victim, no desperate shouting for an ambulance. Only police, only the scene, only the report. As if someone had taught them that the evidence mattered more than the person. That was the second impossible detail. Sarah needed someone still alive, someone who had made one of those calls, and could explain what happened before the recording began. She found Emily Carter, the 7th caller. Emily lived alone outside a small town in northern Nevada. No social media, no interviews, no public statements. She had avoided the case for years. When Sarah arrived, Emily already knew why she was there. She did not ask about Rebecca. She did not ask about Ethan. She only said, "I knew someone would come eventually." Sarah played the old recording. Emily started crying before her own voice came through the speaker, not from guilt, from fear. Sarah asked, "Why did you go there that night?" Emily whispered, I don't know." "Who told you to go?" Emily stared at her hands. "I don't remember his face. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his voice." Sarah waited. Emily said, "I only remember the feeling." "What feeling?" Emily looked up, her eyes were red. "I knew he was going to die before I saw him." The room went quiet. Emily continued, "When I arrived, he was still breathing. I could hear it, very faint. But I knew it was already too late." Sarah asked, "Why didn't you help him?" Emily shook her head. "Because he told me not to touch anything." "Who?" The man. What did he say? Emily closed her eyes and whispered, "Don't touch him. Don't ruin the scene." That sentence stayed with Sarah because it was not a threat. It was not a command. It was worse. It was permission to do nothing. A sentence designed to freeze a person in place, to make hesitation feel responsible, to make fear feel like procedure. And suddenly, Sarah understood the case differently. Maybe this was not supernatural. Maybe it was colder, more human, more possible. Psychological control. Choose the right person, someone anxious, someone isolated, someone afraid of authority. Place them near a dying victim. Tell them the wrong action could destroy everything. Make them afraid to help. Then let the silence finish what violence started. After Emily Carter, Sarah went back to every call. This time, she did not listen for facts. She listened for pressure, and it was there, in the breathing, in the hesitation, in the way each caller sounded like they were waiting for approval. They were not witnesses. They were being managed, guided, held in place. The first caller did not just report the scene, they became part of it. That was what made the Rebecca Hayes case different. The killer was not only interested in death, someone was interested in the moment before death. The moment when a person could still be helped, but was not. 1 month later, Sarah received an anonymous email. No sender name, no subject, no traceable address, only one audio file. She opened it. Static filled the room. Then Ethan Cole's voice came through, clear, calm, almost gentle. "You still think we were witnesses?" Sarah did not move. Ethan continued, "Witnesses see what happened. We were taught to see what was about to happen." A pause. Then he said, "No one has to touch them. You choose the right person, put them in the right place, and tell them not to touch anything." The file ended. There was no IP address, no metadata, no origin, no way to follow it. Ethan Cole vanished. No arrest, no confession, no explanation, and no one ever identified the man whispering beside him in the snow. The Rebecca Hayes case was eventually closed without a complete answer. Officially, there was no proven network, no confirmed organization, no named suspect, no legal conclusion that satisfied anyone. But the investigators who heard the calls knew better. They had heard the pattern, the impossible details, the whispers, the timing, the way living people were treated like bodies, minutes before they died. Years later, during her final interview before retirement, Sarah Bennett was asked which case frightened her the most. She did not answer right away. She looked down at the table for a long time. Then she said, "Not the bloodiest one, not the most violent one, not the one with the cruelest killer." The interviewer asked, "And then which one?" Sarah said, "The one that taught me a person does not have to kill to become part of a death. They only have to stand there, believe it is already too late, and do nothing." The interviewer asked, "Do you believe Ethan Cole was the killer?" Sarah shook her head. "No, and I don't believe he was innocent either. That is what scares me." The interviewer asked, "Then what was he?" Sarah was quiet. Then she answered, "Proof." The interviewer leaned forward. "Proof of what?" Sarah looked toward the window and said the last words she ever spoke publicly about the Rebecca Hayes case. That some people know how to turn a witness into a weapon. A weapon that never touches the victim. A weapon that only waits, listens, obeys, and lets death finish. To this day, no one knows who Ethan Cole really was. No one knows why his name only appeared after 2018. No one knows who stood beside him in the snow that night. But every investigator who heard that 6-minute and 17-second call agreed on one thing. Before police saw the crime scene, dispatch had already heard the lie, and the lie was not that Ethan said something false. The lies was that he pretended he had found a death, when the truth was, he had been placed there to wait for it.